Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball training tape number 5. Have a few more assorted plays. Should have enough plays for one more tape, I believe, and hopefully these are helpful for you as you're pre-gaming with your crew and getting ready for our last 2 weeks of games. Again, not picking on any one team, player, or official, just looking at plays and mechanics and how we can get better as we finish the season. So again, thanks for your efforts, and with that, we'll get to the plays. On this play, the ball will settle on the side of the court opposite the bench, which causes the lead to initiate a rotation, properly so. We're in good position to view this play, and we have a blocking foul called by the C on the dribble drive down the lane line closest to the bench. In this case, since we have a secondary defender involved in this play, we would want lead to be the primary on this play because they're going to know how number 22 got to that spot or not. And C should really trust the lead to take this play. If for some reason the C has a whistle on this, they should just post and hold, and then they can take it to the table if for some reason the lead does not have anything. But we should trust the lead to take it. If you slow this play down frame by frame, really tough play. Block charges are hardest play no matter what. And so if you break this down, technically a player control foul last year, but this year with the restricted arc and play, we have a grounded secondary defender on or over the restricted area who is grounded when contact is made, which means we have a blocking foul in this case. So again, defer to the lead to take this play, and center, if for some reason you have a whistle, let's post and hold, and if lead doesn't have it, we can take it to the table. Because I think if we slow this down, I think the lead was going to ship this as a charge, and we have a block from C, and we have another potential for a blarge, and we don't want to put ourselves in that position. So centers, if you have a whistle, just post and hold, but let's try to trust the lead to take this play. And again, we have a grounded secondary defender on or over the restricted area, which means this year will be a blocking foul on number 22 with lead as primary. Okay, last second shot mechanics. Just something we need to pregame with our crew and how we're going to handle it. Front court, back court, turnovers, transition. Those are all the factors that we have to take into consideration when we're talking about last second shot opportunities. So in this case, we're going to have a backcourt throw-in. C is opposite. That's ideal. Whoever C or T, whoever's opposite is going to take last second shot, and the lead should be the person that's responsible for looking at the clock, make sure that it starts on time, and shutting it down if we don't have a proper start. I like the position of the C here. We're in position to officiate players, but we're also in position to get back and transition if we need to. Because remember, if they decided to pull up for a three-pointer, we need to be in position to see their feet. And if we're trailing the play by too much, we're going to be out of position, and the lead might not be much help, and the trail definitely won't be any help. So we want to make sure we don't get too far in the backcourt. Want to make sure we're around to help. With a last second shot, 3-point shot, see whether it's a 2 or a 3, those kind of things. And then lead, we do a nice job here of noticing that we have a timeout, stopping the clock, and then fixing the clock with definitive knowledge. That's going to be the lead's responsibility almost all the time. Maybe in this kind of play, the trail, because he's far away, he might be able to fix the clock and put time back on. But ultimately, in a regular season game, section game, we're going to be responsible for the clock and determining whether the shot is good or not good. We won't be able to go to replay, and so we have to be our own monitors in this case. So a couple things in addition, not necessarily on this play. If you're able to get C opposite, I think that's great. That's my recommendation, is have the lead officiate back and forth, go where they need to go, and then C will be opposite. and that way if we go back in transition, the lead can just fill as they come up the court. I've been burned myself where we had C opposite, then we had a turnover or a throw-in or something like that, which meant the C was back to trail, and then we had a turnover on the subsequent throw-in, which put us in a bad spot to officiate that subsequent play at the opposite basket. So however you do it as a crew, just make sure that you pregame it and you know what you're going to do as a crew so you're all on the same page, so that when we have funky situations at the end of close games, we're in a good spot to see it, and we know exactly what our partners are going to do and not do as it relates to coverage. So again, lead, you have clock, center, trail opposite, you have last second shot, good or no good, and just make sure that we talk about who's going to cover what, when, and where. But well done by the crew in this particular situation. On this play, we'll have a transition play. Lead is opposite the bench, and we have a run over in the paint with an offensive foul called by the lead. So mechanically, leads, when we're in transition, if we have the ability to cut the court and get to the lane line intersection with the end line, I think that would be the most ideal position to take this kind of play, if we have the ability to make it there and stop and view the play. So that would be the E on Timberwolf or the O. That would be the most ideal place to get to view this kind of play if we can. And then if they pull the ball back out to the top and swing it around, then we can adjust our position as lead to the closed down position and adjust accordingly throughout the possession. But in transition, if we have the ability to cut the court and get to the O or the E and stop and view the play, that would be the most ideal position to take this play. In this particular case, we have a 3-on-4 defender situation, which means that the outnumbered break provision of the restricted area rule does not apply. It only applies if we have more offensive players than defensive players. Okay, so this is a regular block charge play, like the arc is not even there. So basically we need to look at the feet. Do they establish legal guarding position, and then do they maintain prior to contact? In this case, the defender establishes legal guarding position. It is outside the arc. Again, the arc doesn't matter in this play because it's 3-on-4, but even if it did, it would still be an offensive foul because the defender establishes legal guarding position outside of the restricted area. And again, this is in the paint. Anytime we have potential for a restricted area play, we should defer to lead on plays in the paint, and we do in this case. And the lead sees this play, start, develop, and finish, and has a proper call for a player control foul. Well done by the crew. Okay, in this situation, the dribbler is dribbling up the right side of the court, gains front court status, then throws the ball to an airborne player who leapt from the backcourt and makes contact with the ball and is called for a backcourt violation. So a couple of factors. If you look at the backcourt violation rule, which is Rule 9.9 on page 59, it talks about a player shall not be the first to touch the ball after there's been team control in the front court, if he or she or a teammate last touched or was touched by the ball in the front court before it went to the backcourt. So in this case, it gains front court status, which we need to look at team control, player control. She gains control when she's holding the ball in the front court, so now the ball is front court status. And then if you look at player location, she has front court status because she's in contact with the floor. The ball is all the way across, both feet. Now we throw the ball to a backcourt player who leaps from out of bounds and lands in the front court. Her location is based on where she was last in contact with the floor. So she has backcourt status, so we have a ball going from front court status to backcourt status, which means we have a backcourt violation properly called by the trail. And then our positioning by the trail in this play is excellent. Just make sure we slow down a little bit. 1/1000 violation, hand in the air, signal the violation, and then indicate the spot for the throw-in as we do here. So excellent positioning, proper call. Just make sure we understand backcourt violation, the rule, and then team control, player control, front court and backcourt status when making these kinds of rulings. So well done by the crew. On this play, we'll have a dribble drive from center side and a spin move, deflection, subsequently touched by number 2 who jumps from out of bounds, and we have a violation for the ball being out of bounds. First, mechanically, center is in an excellent position to view this play from beginning to end. We have a primary matchup. Now we do have a secondary defender who comes over to help out on a double team in the post, which means she's secondary by rule, which means if there's a block charge play involved, she would need to establish legal guarding position outside of the restricted area. We don't have an RA play here, so we're well done on the mechanics side of things. Let's talk about a couple of rules. When we're looking at this kind of a play, we need to look at what causes a ball to be out of bounds and also player location. So the player location, as we talked about with the backcourt violation, is based on where she last touches the floor since she goes airborne. Once she makes contact with the playing court inbounds, now she has inbound status. So we don't have a first to touch rule or anything like that. Basically, they just need to reestablish by touching the court inbounds. Now, if you slow this down frame by frame by frame, you see that she touches her toe down inbounds ever so slightly before touching the ball. So technically not a violation, but in real time, this would probably be called by officials pretty much every time. I just want us to be aware of the rule. Basically, if they go out of bounds on their own without momentum or getting bumped or something like that, then we would have a violation separate of even touching the ball if that's the case. In this case, her momentum carries her out of bounds. She's legally out of bounds, but if she wants to touch the ball, she has to make contact with the playing court inbounds prior to touching the ball. Again, technically in this situation she does, but in real time, just about every official is going to call this as a violation, saying that she touched the ball prior to making contact with the playing court. But I just want to make sure that we understand the rule. We don't have a first to touch provision. It's all about player location and making contact with the playing court inbounds prior to touching the basketball so that we wouldn't have an out of bounds violation. So I think well done mechanically, and judgment wise I'm totally fine with the judgment as a violation, but as officials, just make sure we understand player location, player control, team control, and how that affects violations or not violation to be called. On this play, we'll have a transition play, pretty hard contact, foul properly called by the lead. Again, make sure we pregame this kind of play, who's going to take what and in what location. And again, if we have multiple whistles, make sure we post and hold. That way we can defer to primary and they can take it to the table. So well done on a foul, good positioning by the crew. And then just as a reminder, we had this in a previous tape as well. If you have blood situation, take them over to the coach and give her the option. They can take her out and have somebody else shoot the free throws, or they can call timeout and then she can come back out and shoot the free throws. And in this case, that is the choice that the coach makes. She determines she wants to call timeout, and hopefully the blood situation will be remedied by the end of the timeout. That way she can take her free throws. Again, we don't have a 20-second or 30-second provision to get it fixed. They need to get it fixed by the end of the timeout, or they need to replace her with a sub to shoot the free throws. And again, remind them if there's blood on a uniform or something like that, remind them please do not change uniforms out on the playing court. Make sure it's properly treated or changed somewhere outside the visual confines of the court. So well done by the crew, good positioning on the initial foul, and then well done handling the situation with the bench. On this play, we have an interrupted dribble out at half court, last to touch the offensive player who had front court team control status. They are the first to touch the ball, their team, in the backcourt. It is a teammate, but they're the first to touch. And then we have a backcourt violation properly called by the trail. So mechanically, we're in really good position to see this play and officiate it. And we have the proper angle and vision to see this play. So just a reminder, take a look at the rule. It's on page 59 as we indicated earlier, and a player should not be the first to touch the ball after it has been in team control in the front court if he or she or a teammate last touched or was touched by the ball in the front court before it went to the back court. So you'll see in this case it is an interrupted dribble, so we still have team control even though it is an interrupted dribble. Okay, so they have team control, front court status, make sure we know those definitions, and it deflects off of her hand, is first touched by a teammate in the backcourt, and the offensive team is properly called for a backcourt violation by the trail. So well done mechanically and rules-wise by the crew. Okay, that's it for the plays for this week. Took a look at violations, so really take a look at Rule 9. This covers a lot of the plays that we had in this particular tape. Again, I mentioned we probably have enough plays to have another tape or one more or so. Hopefully we can get 2 in, but 1 in for sure. And that will take us right into the section tournament. So thanks for your efforts this year. Everyone, you're doing a great job. I appreciate you. We appreciate you at the league. And keep working hard. You have our support. And hopefully we'll have another tape for you in another week or two. So good luck this weekend.